YouTube, Awesome Rider here. Welcome to my review for the latest episode of Kamen Rider Gotchard. My first real catch-up review in a while. You know, I've been doing some of the episode previews, but there hasn't been a lot going on in the show worth checking in on since we ended the last arc. I mean, after that, we kind of had this purgatory of 4 weeks of basically filler. There was some stuff going on in the background, but it was really not that enjoyable at all, especially for Gotchard. And it's kind of weird and rare for Rider to have so many filler episodes a row so late in the series. Usually maybe you'll get 1 or 2, but usually you don't have such a stretch that feels like early on in the show where filler is more commonplace for the series. And Gotchard's filler is some of the least enjoyable filler for me as well. Finally, we had stuff happening last week where we had Clotho and Hotaro forced to work together, and it's leading us into stuff happening now where you kind of have everything happening all at once. You're having the arrival of the Abyssal King or whatever his name is from beyond the gate, which we teased at the end of the last arc, and then you're now having the re-arrival of the 100 gang and all the Legend stuff, which is all kind of happening together. It makes me wish they separated a little bit. Maybe it'll make more sense once the series is done or this arc is done, but since we had that 4-week period where nothing happened, I almost wish that instead of having this void of nothing, we just focused on the Legend stuff for a minute, depending on how long he's staying, and then get to the endgame stuff, and then you wouldn't have a lull, and it also wouldn't feel as weirdly messy. Now, as I kind of mentioned leading up to this, I wasn't going to say I was looking forward to it, in the sense that I wasn't looking forward to watching it, in terms of I look forward to watching other stuff that I actually enjoy. But I was at least, I guess, looking forward to something happening, because there hasn't been a lot happening. And I mentioned my mixed feelings in a previous video that I'm excited for something to happen, but it's one of my least favorite things about Toku, which is shallow crossover forced content. And so that's kind of the way I felt about the episode. It was more entertaining, I guess, than the previous weeks because there was actually stuff happening. There was some solid action and stuff. And I am curious about a couple things, but it very much reminded me of how I feel watching when I used to watch the crossover movies I just don't like it. It's just an excuse for loud noises and fighting, and it's just it's shallow nonsense, and I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. More entertaining than usual, and I'm glad that there was at least something happening, but it's my least favorite thing. Gotchard is this amazing amalgam of just my least favorite things about Toku, which is very unfortunate, and especially coming off Geats bringing back my excitement for Rider, and this immediately knocked me all the way back down the mountain. The couple things I liked, though, was it was funny. We have these 3 very generic badass villain characters that are part of the gang that are all taking the forms of different riders they've stolen powers of, which is Eternal, Dark Kiva, and then Glare or Glaze, or I don't remember which one it is. They had a bunch of different names for it. But they have it out for Hotaro because he defeated members of them before, and they even call him a twerp a couple times, and they just want to take him out. I'm rooting for them. If this series ended with them just taking out Hotaro, it would be a happy ending for me. But that was just kind of funny and almost meta just because of the way I'm always taking jabs at him, and the fact that they were taking jabs at him literally and figuratively in terms of the way I do. It was kind of funny that way. And yet again, he gets his ass handed to him. They do a civilian fight, and he eventually picks himself up later, but it's amazing. Again, I know that take almost too many jabs at Hotaro, but it's amazing how often this dude gets beat up. It's dude, doesn't help him beat those pathetic allegations. And then there's a moment where, I guess everyone finds out his identity, including Kajiki, which, side note, I find it hilarious. That character, again, I'm still waiting to figure out his purpose in the main show, because he's only relevant when his weird butler variant shows up. But he finds out his identity along with everyone else, and they kind of chant, and it's trying to be an inspiring moment. And I'm sure there's people out there that are connecting with the series more where this felt inspiring, but it just rang so hollow for me. I just can't buy anybody rooting for Hotaro, not to mention I just have such a lack of investment in the show. I think there's been a very small handful of moments where I've actually felt kind of emotionally invested. Not even emotionally invested, but I could feel the emotion behind it. And those moments were in Valverad's Focus episodes about his backstory and his connection with his mentor. Those are the only times I've ever felt a genuine feel from the show. Everything else feels especially moments like this, it feels like a manufactured checklist moment you would see in any other series. In general, the show feels like they wrote down a checklist of moments you'll get in any given Rider series and just ran it through AI, and that became the show. And then it's oh, this isn't working, let's throw in some Kamen Rider Legend content and some crossover content and then run that through the AI. And that's what this episode kind of felt like. It felt like all these checklists of generic team-up-y, I guess it's sort of team-up-y, there's no actual Legend Riders in it, except, Kamen Rider Legend is a Legend Rider, but you know what I mean, it's not a legacy actor. But, it just felt like that generic checklist of turning into past forms, other past Rider suits showing up, but it's not really them, so it's very hollow. I love Kiva. Kiva's one of my favorite series because it was one of my first, but seeing Dark Kiva just rings hollow to me, because there's just nobody in here. There's also this other random writers that show up, and I'm who the fork is this now? And I guess it's from Kamen Rider Outsiders, which Gotchard has burned me so much. I've had such little like interest in watching other Rider content that I haven't checked that out yet. But at the time, I'm like, who's this? What are you doing? But again, I guess I know it's from that. Will I watch that ever? I don't know. We'll have to see. But yeah, that moment kind of rang hollow, and so much about this just felt like a checklist of generic moments that I wasn't really enjoying that much. Legend didn't even show up till the very end when they kind of defeated most of the Riders except Dark Kiva, and then he fights at the end, and then Dark Kiva ends up doing this world-ending thing, and that's when Legend transforms into his final form that we tease. They kind of tease that up so that you can go buy the toys and stuff before they show it off more next week, and I do like that form. I'm still not a fan of that ugly collage idea for so many Rider suits, and I wish that this was just tweaked to not have that, but I do like it, and I like it considerably more than Decade Complete, DN Complete, and Decade's like Super Complete whatever form from the Geo movie that I haven't watched yet. And then Legend like also he transforms, I think, literally into every Rider from Kuga through Decade. It's weird seeing that idea of him transforming into Decade who could also transform into other Riders. Like imagine, you know, because he's basically just transforming into their base form with an ugly golden sash, but imagine if he transformed into the Legend Decade version and then transformed again into Kuga or Agito. It would be like a weird Russian nesting doll situation, but he basically just showed off literally every single Wave 1 Heisei era Rider in a Legend Rider transform fight. Next week I'll be curious to see how long this sticks around and how much more Legend content there is in the series overall. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it was a little more enjoyable in the previous weeks, but it's not my thing. It's not that I don't like crossover stuff and like a lot of the stuff that they do, it's just that we run it into the ground so much, and I personally find it to have very little quality to it in these last decade. Like if we were to take a break for a while and come back, or if this wasn't something we had got a lot, you know, and we weren't constantly doing these movies and these Legend changes, this would all be really cool. I was thinking that when I watched this, I'm like, I remember when like Decade and Gotchard came out, like this was exciting, cool stuff because it wasn't run into the ground and you would have better quality often. And I don't want to spoil anyone's fun. Some people just like the bright colors and explosions, but I like a little bit more substance behind it. And again, even the shallow aspects I can't enjoy because it's run into the ground, and I just have such a little investment to the show. I'm just going through the motions at this point, and it sucks that like the high point of the show is bringing in action from one of my least favorite things about Toku, but I don't know, we'll see. I might check in next week since we might be getting some more stuff worth talking about with Legend, but we're in the end game now. Honestly, part of me wants to quit watching the show because I'm enjoying it so little, but we're so close to the end in a way, and well, it would bother me in the long run if I hadn't seen every Rider show, and I would never be able to do ranking videos again. But anyways, guys, what did you think of the return of the Legend plot? Let me know in the comments as always. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell to get notifications for my videos. The Awesome Rider, signing out.